G'day YouTube, it's Bogie time. Not boogie time, Bogie time. If you followed my channel for a while, you know I'm a big train fan, and you'll also know that one of the things I do with my new city trains is I upgrade them to Jacobs Bogies. If you want to see what I did previously on the last train, check out the video in the corner now. That was what I did, and that shows you how I built those bogies. But for this one, I want to do something slightly different. And I'm going to start this video by giving a shout out to GJBricks, because he actually did a video about his Jacobs bogies recently, and he had a couple of good observations that I'm going to include in this video. My Jacobs bogies are going to be different to his. I will say that right now. I built them differently and the way they finish up is different. But I'm going to show you a couple of things he did in his video, and his video is linked in the corner here now as well if you want to go and have a look at that one. I recommend checking it out. He does an awesome job on it. He did a lovely job, and he's been upgrading his trains as well. He's ahead of me on that. I'll put my hand up now and say he's doing things I want to do to my train, so I'm trying not to do the same thing as him. But anyway, what I will start with is this bogie here. This is the one I came up with first of all for this. This is different to my last one, and if you remember in my last haul, I got these gold 1x1 round plates, and what I wanted to do was just build something really simple. So these look like the suspension springs, and if you look at a lot of the sort of Jacobs bogies and the bogies on trains, they have these big massive springs in there. So that worked really well. So I thought, yeah, awesome. And I thought I'd actually got around the problem that GJBricks had. I've used the round tiles he did because I've got masses of these things I bought for paving, so I just thought I'd use them. But I'll show you, I had exactly the same problem as him, and I thought I had managed to get around it, and I didn't. So if we put this on here, it just goes in here, same as the other one, and this is similar design to the one you get on the Horizon Express. And what I did there, it gets to that point and clips. This is exactly the same problem he has, and for it to go any further, it actually has to lift up like that. And what you'll see is it's hitting that stud right there, which is really annoying. I was quite upset about that because I thought I'd actually got around it, but no, it's actually physically impossible. If you make this bogie any higher, it'll actually sit higher than this, which is not what we want to happen. We want it to sit there so it's the same height as those wheels, otherwise it'll look very strange and the train will be riding at weird angles. It'll look really odd. So anyway, disappointed to say the least, but I actually really like the design I came up with this. So what I did is exactly the same thing as GJBricks, and I extended it by one stud. So there we go, near enough the same design, but with one stud extra in the middle there, which means, you know, there's a little bit of jiggery pokery to make this fit. But that one extra stud makes all the difference here. Oh, let's get that pin out of the way. It's not supposed to be there. Let's get that. There we go. Right. So if we put that one there, you suddenly notice that that actually moves a lot more than it did, which is exactly what we want, and that is now enough to go around a standard R32, which is the radius of Lego train tracks, corner, which is perfect. And I'll show you what he did to finish off inside his, and it works perfectly well, and I agree totally with his design here. Is you can make a little filler piece like this, and again, he's done all this on his channel, so go watch it and put it in there, and you end up with a nice filled out space. And that looks pretty darn good, and I think his looked really, really hot. But I'm not going to do that. I went one step further than that, and I did something that I've been looking at for a while, been thinking about, and I decided to take all of this out and put it to the side. Let's put our little graveyard of Jacobs bogies to the side here. You can tell I've been playing with this for a while. I went all in and built a massive Jacobs bogie. So the idea being that what we've got here is something that fills in this space quite nicely on its own. Don't need any filler pieces. But what that also meant is I've got a little step on the end here as well. It's the same suspension pieces there, and just this filler bit here. I might change this for a round one, I think, when I can. I just didn't have the parts available at the moment, but yeah, I think I'm going to change that for a round piece to go in there. But yeah, pretty solid. I like how I filled this in. This is actually the most solid of the three. and I built this one using Technic the whole way through. So this whole piece is built on Technic. You can actually build the same thing using these pieces here, which is quite common. In the, like, the Horizon Express doesn't use that one, it uses that piece, but you see other people using these pieces for connecting up trains. But no, this is entirely Technic built all the way through there, and I actually found it gave it extra strength through there, and I'm really proud of how this bit in here is actually put together, which I'll show you in the video in a second. But when you see that on here, I think it looks rather good, because it fills in that space nicely, and as it goes around the corner you see it fills it in. You see why I want to put the round piece in there though, but yeah, it fills it in perfectly well. I think that looks pretty good. If I was going to make any amendments to this, I might make this a little bit deeper here, but otherwise I think that looks pretty darn good. I'm very happy with it. And then here's the second carriage just to show it working, and you can see how this whole thing looks together. There we go, look at that. I think that looks pretty good, pretty good. I'm very happy with how that looks, nice and clean through here. I wanted to go with something a bit simpler on this one, and I'm really happy. I think the gold really pops out from the grey there and actually gives it that kind of, that does look like that could be working suspension. I did play with a couple of other ideas like this one here, sort of trying to do an angled piece, and I did a horizontal one, and it looked a bit clumsy, and I just thought that would just look really sort of clean and modern, and this is a high-speed train, isn't it? So I thought that worked really well. And just to prove that that does actually go around the corner properly, here's a curve I made earlier. So let's put it on there and prove that it does actually go around that corner properly. Let's get it off of that piece there, and there it is. Look, beautiful, absolutely perfect. If you go with an aftermarket like an R24 or something like that from GJBricks, this won't work. This won't turn far enough to do that one. That's a corner that would sit inside here, won't work. But if you're going on standard Lego tracks or wider, this works perfectly. I think that's really good. So I'm going to show you how I put this together now, if you're interested in seeing it, if you want to make one of these yourself, and then you can make a decision between mine or Robin Hood Bricks' version, both of which I think really improve this train immensely. This is a train, this is a high-speed train. You look at high-speed trains, this is the kind of bogie they generally use. There's very few that don't do this. Why do they do that? Because you have less wheels. Also, you'll notice I've now got two sets of wheels. I've got an extra set of wheels here now I can put aside and use to build something else. So that's another advantage doing that. We've freed up some parts. I've got these magnets here so I can go and do some nice stuff like building out some carriage mocks with the parts. Awesome. Very happy about that. So without further ado, let's have a look at how this goes together. Now, in order to make this as difficult as possible for myself, I've laid all the pieces out pretty randomly. That's not quite true, I haven't laid them out randomly. I did leave a couple of pieces together to remind me how I put them on. But I'm going to start by showing you what I meant by I used Technic for this. So I used two of those like that with the pins in. That was how I did it. So what you can see is I suddenly start to get strength through there, but there's a gap in the middle, and I'll show you how to fill that one. But I'm going to put these on first, these round tiles. Now I use these because it closes in the space quite well, but you can use other ways to do it. You don't actually have to hide this whole thing in. What you can do if you want to is like Robin Hood Bricks did on his, is use these round tiles because they sit perfectly against that. So that's one option. Personally, I like that. I think that looks nice, and it does basically makes everything smooth around it. There's no surfaces for it to catch on, which is why I like that one. You're never actually going to see this, so it doesn't matter, but for some reason it was important to me to do the little finishes in there. Maybe I should have used some colours in there as well. That would have been fun. There we have the first bit. I'm going to put them straight onto the wheels there, so sticking out one stud like that on each end. Now, to fill in the middle here, use the 3x2 like that, and that's given us that. That's really flimsy now though. But I realised I can actually layer this up quite nicely because, oh, see, I can layer this up quite nicely because of how I've put this together. So I took a 1x4 and put it on there. You can see what I'm doing there. It's giving me a bit of bracing, and then I can put these 2x3 tiles on there like that, and that's suddenly very strong, and I'm going to make that stronger again in a minute. by adding a few more parts. Now let's start off by finishing off this top layer first. So we'll put those on. So the two 2x6s go on there like that, and then down on the back here, I'm going to leave these off. We're going to use these in a minute, but we'll put these ones on here. We're going to use two more in a second, so we'll do that one. Notice I'm leaving a stud spare there, and that is because that's actually where the base goes in, and it needs that gap there, otherwise it won't work and it will end up hitting that tile. So the joys of trying to do this one. So I've done that, and it's getting quite strong already, that one. So now let's put in our suspension, which is these. So they're just 3 1x1 tiles stacked on top of each other. That's how I've done it. That's how I've made suspension. You can use any colour you like for this. Black if you want it to make it look quite sort of worn and things. I just had these and I thought they really popped. And they look like kind of futuristic, high-speedy, you know, all kinds of interesting things going on there. I thought it worked quite well personally. Next, we're going to put 2 more 2x3s in there. Can never have enough 2x3s. And then we put these on, which go across there like that. And you can already tell this is pretty darn solid because I've got that lattice work there, and that's not going to break or do anything like this. There's no twist in there, nothing. That's pretty darn solid. I like how that looks already. Now, let's build the side pieces. So for that, we take one of those. I think it's a 1x2x2 bracket. Let's call it that. Anyway, I'll find out what the part name is and put that in the parts list. We put a plate and a modified 1x2 with a single stud there like that. You can use any colour here because you're not actually going to see it. And then we put the plate on, like the this piece on here, to finish it off. And that sits on that tile there like that. Ta-da! Then we do the same on the other side like that. Ta-da! And now our last thing to do there is to put these two 1x4 again modified with the 2 studs there across there, and that keeps those in check. Just stops them falling off, just makes them a little bit more solid. And that is how we make the first bit. So at that point you've got a Jacobs Bogie that will actually work on the train perfectly. That actually is effectively what this is, the same as that, just with these tiles done differently. But that's not where we're going to stop. We're now going to build out this end piece here, which is a little bit more involved. So we take 2 of these. They're in white because A, I've got lots of them, and B, you can't actually see that. And these ones are in white because I didn't have any grey ones. I'll be changing that out for grey because you can actually see this white piece. Unfortunately, didn't have a choice there. Next up, we put one of those on there. I've used these. You can use a normal one. I just kind of like the industrial look that gives it. It looks like it's, you know, some ventilation or something like that. Some kind of heat exchange in there. Again, hidden pieces. Same thing Lego does, using colours that you've got lots of or are cheap, or, you know, mix things up. Then we take 2 of these 1x2 curve plates, put them on there, and then we take the inverse ones and put them underneath. And that's how we do the ends. Now, I was saying when I did the original talk through, the one thing I'm thinking about doing here is actually making that slightly deeper. So putting a 1x1 grey brick in there and something underneath there to actually make it deeper. Put a 1x4 in there, which again, give you a bit more strength once more. Then we'll put on 2 of those. Looking good so far. And then the next piece, we put a 1x4 under there. Then we take 1 1x1 here, and you can do 2 of these if you want, 1 on each end. I've just done it this way, and then I put 1 of these on there because it looks a bit like a step. And then we put that onto here, like so. Put 2 of these on here just to seal it in. Again, you can see I like to sort of layer things up. Again, those don't actually need to be there, but I like them there. And this to me is a bit more strength. Let's flip it over. And a 2x4 plate there, and then that's got everything's connected all the way through there, and that is pretty darn solid. Let's put the other end on there. I've done a better job putting this back together because I've actually got 2 spare parts from the original version. Don't need those. And there you have it. That is my version of the Jacobs Bogie for this one. It's practically a whole carriage on its own, but yeah, that's how I've designed it. I'm pretty happy with how this looks. I do want to look at these end pieces and change them a bit, but for version 1 of this, I'm pretty happy with that. You can see how you can easily change that for something else using some of these pieces here to make it wider, go all the way out. There's no reason that wouldn't work because it'll sit in the curve nicely. Pretty happy with that. Pretty solid. That's not going to go anywhere. There's no flex in there. That is a solid bogie that will make your train run many hundreds of miles without any issues. Alright, here it is on my track. I've cleared the way so we can set this rolling. Let's turn the lights on, make the appropriate noises, and we're off. Oh, I think that looks pretty darn good in my books. There it goes. Yeah, nice. I am wonderfully happy with how those look. I think that looks pretty special. I think that is actually better than the last ones I did on this train. Yep, I'm happy with that. Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. You may also notice I have done some work on my city for those of you that have asked that question recently. Oh, and look, there's a station. There's actually a station in the city, but we'll talk about that in another video. There's one over there too, but that needs a bit of work. Here we are back on the track now. I really hope you enjoyed that and you really like the way I've done this one. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. Would you change anything here? I considered putting an extra step in here, for example, maybe. That's on my list of things that I might do. I need to get some more of these parts first though, to be honest. I ran out. Always the way. Would you change anything around the detailing here? I mean, it's very hard to actually change this, but you can change this side piece to anything you want. You could build that out. I even considered putting some stuff, taking that out and putting some stuff inside there to kind of look mechanical almost. But I like how this looks clean, it looks modern, it looks very future clean, if that makes sense. This is the kind of thing you'd put on a high-speed train for me. And I did really like this smaller design as well. So you can see pretty much how this is basically this one with an extension on the end, so you can get to this point and then just fill that piece in with an angled plate just to fill it in, and it looks complete, and that will work as well. Same size, you can see, exactly the same. So that's my approach to it. That's how I did my Jacobs Bogies. I will be doing some more upgrades on this train very soon when I've done my next bricklink order, which I'll be doing this weekend. If you're new here, please hit subscribe. I post regularly, and as I said, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments about this and any changes you'd like to see made to this. Something on the interior, something on the roof. I've been considering this roof. This roof really bothers me. It's so boring. So that's something I'm going to have a think about what I can do there. Is there anything I can do to add a bit of detailing in here maybe, just to sort of break up this big grey blob that's here? Want to know your thoughts? Tell me, please. I want you to tell me what you want me to do to this train. I'm going to leave it there. Hope to get lots of awesome comments from you. And I will see you again very soon. And I'll leave you with a couple of videos that I think you'll want to watch. See you soon.